Today we will discuss about database management system and what is a database or what is a database management system. We will go through this one. So let us do one thing. Let us try to understand or split these terms such as the data, what is exactly data, and what is database, and what is management system. So these all together, it is called as a database management system. Now in the first unit of the database management system, we will be discussing about a database and database users. So first we have to understand what is actually data. So the real life information such as the name of the students, a telephone number, address in the sense which would include, further it can be classified as a street address, house number, state address, or so in general if I have to say, all these things are called as a data. Now we need a database to store those data. So the question comes here, what is a database? So if you keep all the related data together, for example, if you take a student data, student roll number, name, his marks and other details, whatever is needed, so that can be kept in the tabular format. That is what we can call it as a database. And here you can see on the screen, a database is a collection of related data. So what do you mean by that related data? Here for one student, suppose X is the name of the student, his related data is his roll number or a register number, his name, his parent's name, his address, telephone number, and so on, the caste and so many things. These are all data which are brought in together, and these are all related data which are kept in one line or one sentence if you take, and it is arranged. Like that we can keep a data of many students, and that is what we can call it as a database. Now here database represents some aspects of real world, sometimes called as a mini world. Means now whatever I said, just like a data of a student, we can have a customer data, we can have a product data. So these are all the things which are needed in the mini world or universe. Actually these are logically coherent collection of the data with some inherent meaning. Means a database will have some meaningful information. If it is a student data, it will include all the meaningful information regarding that student, and it is also built for specific purpose. Database is also built for specific purpose. We are discussing about a topic or we are learning this subject called as a database management system. So I want to clarify these things. What is the data? So already we have discussed. So name of the student and everything, it is a data, and to keep that particular data we are using database. Now the question comes is, what is management or a management system? Now here the term management means it includes different things. So in this particular slide at the bottom you can see creating a data. That is what we call it as a defining a data. Means if you want to create a student data, you need to define the database. So where you want to keep a data. So we will do it in a tables, or we have to design the tables. That is what we can call it as a defining of data. Similarly, constructing. So you need to construct the data, means you have to insert the data into that. Once you define means creating the structure of the data. Here we have to understand exactly what is the structure. So your database will include student number, name, address and all these things, and this needs to be defined. So how this is defined we will see in the future classes. Next, once the database is defined, we need to insert those data. What is what we can call it as a constructing of data. After constructing, manipulation. Sometimes we may need to insert or delete, or even we want to select the data. So even sometimes we have to modify the data. That is what we can call it as a manipulation of data or manipulating data. Then these data are shared among the users. So that is what we can call sharing of data. Together, a complete system, we call it as a database management system. So here database management system is a collection of programs that enables the user to create and maintain the database. So that is what is here. If I say Creating and maintaining a database means creating the tables, inserting the records, then modifying, that is updating the records or deleting the record. Together it is called as a create and manipulate data, and that is managed by database management system. Here in our subject, we will be theoretically learning about the concept related to the database management system, whereas when it comes to the practical, we are learning about the database management system, which is called as a MySQL, and that MySQL we are using to create the data, to insert the record into the data, create the database, then insert the record. So if I say create a database means creating a table of a student, it may be, or any other related such as customer and customer or any other data. Then we can also insert, how we will see how to insert or how to modify the data. These are the things what we are learning theoretically as well as practically, and practically we are doing it in MySQL. Now let us understand this database management system. So this is what we can call it as a system environment or database system environment. Now exactly we have to understand how this works. Just go through the diagram here. There you can see users program. We will take one example. Suppose assume that you are inserting some records into or even you are sometime what you are doing is in the midterm or end term, you are entering midterm or end term details, or enter midterm or end term database you are filling. Just you will be provided with the form, and there you are selecting or inserting a data which will be reflected in the database. So here whatever the interface is provided for you, those are user programs. Or even you can consider, suppose assume that you are filling one form, so sometime you are filling the, even when you just create a mail ID, so you need to fill your information. So that is provided with one interface. That is what we can call it as a user program. And some application program which will run or responsible for this user running a user data, and those application programs can be used for defining the queries. Okay, now queries, what is a query? That question comes into the mind. So here we have to discuss about two concepts here. One is application program and another one is queries. So what is the application program? The program which is provided for the user to insert or delete or modify, that is what we call as a manipulation of data, and that particular interface is the application program. If you go for online applications, you are using HTML as a application program. Like that, there are different application programs are there. We will discuss that one by one in the future. Then you insert the record. So for inserting the record, we use a query. We use a query, that is insert. For selecting the query, for retrieval, we are using select. Select query we are using. So like that, there are queries. To modify the record, we are using the update query. To delete a record, we are using delete query. Now there is one software, a DBMS software, which is, can see what happens ultimately when you insert the record. We have to understand what happens. Suppose if you are inserting the record, it is stored into the database. It is stored into the database. Now whatever the data is inserted, it is inserted through application program into the database, a stored database. This is where we are creating our database, means tables. That is what I said in the previous section. We have discussed about this defining. So defining means the creation of database or a tables is done in this particular repository. This is where your data is stored. Here we are using MySQL. MySQL is a software which is used to store the data. See here, MySQL is used to store the data. So this is where you create a table, and whatever the data is inserted by a user, it is stored in this particular database or particular table. And here you see here In this section you can see query can be used to retrieve the data and store the data. That is what we call reading and writing of data. And here whatever the data is written or whatever the structure of the table is created, its definition is kept under this metadata. This is the concept what we have to understand here. Here data definition, descriptive or descriptive information is stored in the database catalog. This particular thing what we call it as a metadata, it is a catalog where most of the information will be kept regarding the table creation and insertion of records. So all this information we will have it in the metadata. And now let us understand what is a database system or what is a database software. So this database software is there, no? This is responsible for inserting the record, deleting the record, updating the record, whatever we call it as a queries, or even creation of the table. So here you can see in the diagram, database software means software to process queries and program. Means most of the queries and programs are processed through this DBMS software. And software to access the, this is where we can say this is a MySQL. Sorry, not here. This is actually the storage area where you are using where you are keeping data. This is the MySQL, which is responsible for storing the data and retrieving the data. So that is a DBMS software. Actually, the database and DBMS software, they are working together, and together when they work, this is called as a database management system or a database system. This is how our database works.